Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Commodity TV in the new edition of our online interview series. Uranium is hot. Uranium is really moving, I can tell you, folks. And we want to talk to Skyharbour Resources, and Jordan Trimble, the CEO, is here with us. Good morning to Canada. How are you, Jordan?
I'm great. Good afternoon, good evening over there. And it's been a long time. It was good catching up with you before this, and we got lots to cover.
Absolutely. We have really a lot to talk about. And I mean, the times are really shaky aside the war with Ukraine and Russia, but the consequences are really tough. So we were just talking before this interview about uranium prices at $58 to $60. It really jumped $6 last night. Then we saw probably today Putin will ban uranium on the export list to the US. I think that could have really heavy implications.
Yeah, look, the news broke actually yesterday afternoon, our time, on the announcement that there may be sanctions on Rosatom, Russia's state-owned uranium mining and nuclear fuel cycle company. This would have, needless to say, major ramifications if that's the case. That may not even need to happen, as you know, Putin has said before. He's going to ban exports from Russia. Now, if this does happen, and call it the East, i.e., Russia's cut out from trading with the West in this industry, you're looking at a fairly significant amount of primary mine supply from Russia, and maybe potentially from some other, call it Russian-influenced countries. I mean, the big one, the big elephant in the room is Kazakhstan, with over 40% of primary global mine supply. But let's just focus in on Russia for the time being. So, fairly significant amount of primary mine supply that could potentially no longer be going to the West, to Western utilities, but also enrichment. This I don't think gets talked about as much as it should. I mean, Russia accounts for over 35% of global enrichment. And so this is going to have major ramifications for the nuclear fuel cycle, with in particular Western utilities if this happens. And again, it just emphasizes the importance of sourcing material and developing the nuclear fuel cycle in the West. And again, this all comes back to the geopolitical factors at play, and the benefits of owning projects and assets in North America, Australia, and other parts of the West. So that was some major news. We obviously have seen the market react positively. The spot price is marching higher. We'll see where it goes from here. You and I have talked at length in the past about, pricing and the historicals. I mean, again, just to refresh everyone, even where it's trading currently, it's traded much higher historically. We all know in 06, 07, it eclipsed $135 a pound. It was about $70 a pound before Fukushima. It's gone almost parabolic here in the last 24 hours. So probably need to see a bit of consolidation, but who knows? I mean, there's just so much happening right now that's impacting the price, and maybe something else we can touch on that same thread, right, is looking at what's transpired obviously over the last few weeks. The sanctions, as we're talking about, are going to have an impact on this industry as they have on other commodities. But if you look at what's going on, and I think the outcome from this, especially for the West, and you talk about Germany in particular, and energy policies globally, this is really going to bring to the forefront energy independence and security of supply. And I think that obviously nuclear historically has allowed countries to generate clean, affordable, reliable electricity. France has been really the poster child for this. Germany obviously had phased out the nuclear power plants over the last 10, 12 years. But maybe that's something to look at. There's still 3 operating there, and there were 17 initially. And actually, just moving back over to Asia. Some other topical news that, again, just came out yesterday were elections in South Korea. A new ruling party there that's pro-nuclear, that plans not to phase out their nuclear reactors. So, these positive developments and catalysts are cascading right now, which is great, obviously, for the uranium price. And as far as how much runway there is with the price, again, even at current prices, they're still, I believe, to be relatively low. The price needed to incentivize new meaningful production to come online is still higher than where it's trading at right now.
Yeah, I think it's $70-$80 minimum.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, depending on who you talk to and what reports you look at, but suffice to say that general consensus out there is it's still higher than where it is today. And as we've seen with this commodity, when it moves quickly, and it tends to overshoot that fair market price or value. And so I expect it'll probably do the same. You and I were talking offline, some reports of $150 to $200 a pound. I mean, it's that's pure speculation, but again, I still think in the very early innings of this bull market. So again, we'll see how things play out over the next several months, but certainly we have a lot of macro tailwinds right now. And just before we move on, because I like to take a step back. We've had a lot of fluidity and a lot of events and developments in the last several weeks, but I always like to emphasize the underlying fundamentals. Again, they are incredibly compelling. You have a pretty significant primary mine supply deficit that's formed over the last 5 or 6 years. You just simply don't have new production coming online in the short term to meet growing demand. The supply side, as you and I have talked about at length, we don't need to rehash everything, but there's really been a major supply side response that has played out over half a decade. And then when you look at the demand side, and this is what I think is really going to get investors' attention going forward. I think it's going to shift from a supply side story to more of a demand-driven story going forward. We've talked about two major macro trends globally that nuclear slots nicely into. One is electrification, the need for more electricity globally, and then the second is, and it goes hand in hand with the first, is clean energy. Most major economies and countries have announced they're planning to decarbonize. By mid-century, nuclear has to play an integral role. Part of the reason I'm sure the EU just recently announced that nuclear is a part of
it's green now.
Finance taxonomy. Exactly. So these are all positive developments in my mind. In my opinion, they took too long to come to fruition, but they're all happening now. And like I said, I still think there's a lot of room to move here with these very strong underpinning fundamentals that will, again, continue to help drive the price higher.
Definitely. So let's come to your beautiful company, but it was fantastic. Thank you very much for that, because that's exactly the situation today. And we are both, I think, very bullish for uranium. Your flagship project is Moore. So you did a program, 2020-2021 exploration program, satisfied with the results, and what is planned for 2022, and when we're going to see a resource?
Yeah, no, great questions. So the flagship project, Moore Lake, as you and the audience know, has been really our focal point for the company for the better part of the last 4 or 5 years. We've carried out a fair bit of drilling. As you know, as we talked about, the drilling more recently has been focused on basement hosted targets underneath this almost 5 kilometer long Maverick conductive fertile corridor, where there was historical high-grade mineralization upwards of 21% U3O8 discovered. So in the sandstone or right at the unconformity. So we've been looking a little bit deeper, in particular at what's called the East Maverick Zone, and the results that we announced from the 2021 program. Just to recap that, so it's a 6,600 meter program. We finished late last year. We had our best and our highest grade zone of mineralization in the underlying basement rocks at East Maverick. So that was 6.8% U3O8 over 2 meters. That was within a broader zone. So that's a significant result for us. It's open at depth. It's the Maverick corridor has only really been systematically drill tested for about half or just over half of the 4.7 kilometers of strike. And again, it's almost entirely wide open at depth in the basement rock. So we do have plans with this initial 2,500 meters. I will just note it's a minimum 2,500 meters. It'll likely be a multi-phased drill program that will carry out this year. So there'll be several other drill programs throughout the year. And we will continue drilling the basement rocks at the Maverick and East Maverick zones. We are going to be testing as well a zone about 1.5 kilometers to the northeast along strike to the main Maverick and East Maverick zones. This is called the Viper Zone. There was some historical drilling there years ago, some fairly decent uranium mineralization, but not a lot of follow-up work. We put together a new geological model for this target, and so we're going to be testing a couple of new zones there that we think could deliver high-grade results. And then there is a regional target, which we're quite excited about, called the Grid 19 target. And we did do a little bit of drilling there in 2021. You'll see that with the news that came out over the last several months. Some anomalous uranium mineralization, but very intriguing structure, alteration, indicator minerals. So we're quite keen to get back there and continue drill testing that. It's really a somewhat virgin target, given that it hasn't had a whole lot of exploration carried out on it. And so we think it's potentially ripe for a new discovery. And we're going to be, again, testing that with this upcoming or ongoing right now drill program. So keep an eye out for news flow on that. As you'll see, we're fairly consistent with news flow from the drilling. Again, this will be the first of probably several phases of drilling. And, as we talked about before, we are working towards a maiden resource estimate. We think there's still a fair bit more we can find there with drilling, but expect to see something out in the near term at some point for sure this year on that as we continue to advance Moore Lake.
Super, perfect. Then something catched my interest when I went to your presentation at the South Falcon project. So you have a resource of uranium and thorium. I don't want to distract you now from uranium, but that was for me very interesting because I think you are the only company which has thorium also, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, it's not something we talk a lot about, but you picked it out in the material. So at South Falcon Point, we own 100% of it. It's call it our second core asset behind Moore Lake. It's a project that we haven't done a ton of work on in recent years, but we do actually plan to carry out some work and potentially some drilling there later this year. It does host an NI 43-101 compliant inferred uranium resource of 7 million pounds at 0.03%. It's a bit lower grade, but it's right at surface. As uranium price continues to move higher, that deposit certainly becomes much more interesting. And we did a little bit of drilling there several years back now beneath the deposit and discovered some higher grade mineralization at depth. So we do see the tenor of uranium mineralization pick up at depth. And as you pointed out, there is a thorium credit just over 5 million pounds at 0.023% thorium. So it's a great asset in our portfolio. It's just south. It's in the southeast portion, actually outside of the sandstone cover. And it's a project, like I said, that can start generating some news flow that we think there's a lot more value to be unlocked at. So keep an eye out for news from that as well.
Okay, super. Before we talk about your prospect generator business, or probably that's already affected, I saw also your Preston partnership is with Orano. That is fantastic. So because that's a former Areva, so you have a big boy associated with you guys. We very much value that working relationship and joint venture partnership we have with Orano. They're France's largest uranium mining and nuclear company, and it was an option agreement that we signed with them back in 2017. A year ago, they completed the earn-in for the 51%. So we now carry on as a joint venture partner with them as the operator at Preston. Actually, just in the last few weeks, I'm sure you've seen a lot of news flow from the other 4 partner companies. And, just taking a step back here, we at Skyharbour have a dual-pronged strategy. It's quite unique to Skyharbour. First and foremost, we are a discovery and exploration story, the focus being at Moore Lake and later this year at South Falcon Point. We're looking to emulate the successes that other exploration discovery stories have had in the basin, and now with the uranium market working in our favor, I think there's a lot of value to be unlocked at these projects. But as a secondary strategy, and with the large land package that we have, we act as a prospect generator and bring in partner companies. And this part of the business has grown quite a bit
in the last several years in particular. So we, as we just talked about, we have the joint venture partnership with Uranium. Another company that we have a partnership with on the west side of the basin, Azincourt Energy. They completed their joint venture, their earn-in for the joint venture partnership at East Preston again about a year ago. They're actively and aggressively working and drilling that East Preston project with 6,000 meters currently underway. Just last week, they announced some very encouraging initial visual indications of mineralization in East Preston. So, very excited to see what they can pull from that project. We have a minority interest in the project. And so we will benefit with any exploration success that they have. And then moving back over to the east side of the basin, 3 relatively new partner companies, one being ASX-listed Valor Resources at our Hook Lake project. Actually, this is just north of the South Falcon Point project. They've commenced a 2,500 meter drill program to find the source of a very high-grade outcrop that runs up to 68% U3O8. And so they're drilling at that project right now. Again, we're excited to see what they can pull from that. As ultimately, if they complete the earn-in, will be a minority interest holder in the project and a large equity holder in the company. And then more recently, the last 2, Basin Uranium Corp at our Man Lake project, they have an option to earn in 75% at our Man Lake project, and Madero Mining has an option to earn an initial 70% at our Yurchison project. Now, both of these companies have made recent announcements. Their plans are initial field programs, geophysical surveys, and then they will drill later in the year. In fact, just yesterday, Basin Uranium announced plans for a 15,000 meter drill program at Man Lake, which they had raised flow-through money for in the latter part of last year. So when you look at all of the drilling, all of the exploration that's been announced to date by us and our various partner companies, you already have commitments for upwards of 26,000 meters. That's just what's been announced. I suspect it'll for sure, I think, eclipse 30 or 35,000 and could even be more depending on what drill programs look like later in the year at our projects and at the partner funded project. So a lot going on, a lot of drilling, a lot of news flow, and most of that being funded by partner companies. We're large shareholders of several of these companies, the ones that are publicly traded. And so, again, with any success in any one of these projects, think of it as multiple shots on goal. If there's a discovery at any one of these projects, that'll be very, very exciting for us and our shareholders.
Sounds like your prospect generator business is like a fund inside Skyharbour.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I've had the analogy of a small exploration ETF. I mean,
exactly.
I know that far, but we have just to put some numbers on it and kind of tie it with our treasury. We're well funded right now with about $9.5 million in cash and stock. The equity portfolio has grown from about a year and a bit ago, $500,000 Canadian to over 4 million, 4.5 million. So
nice.
It's certainly a beneficial strategy and model in a rising uranium market as these share prices appreciate.
Yeah, definitely, because I think you have upside in Skyharbour and upside in your interests you have in the companies, of course. So that multiplies several times, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And keep in mind too, we retain on all of these, most of these projects, we retain a minority interest. The only project that the partner company has a pathway to 100% on is at Yurchison, but there's a fairly significant $15 million in cash and stock payment that would be due for them to acquire that remaining 30%. So not all the other projects we retain a minority interest, and with any exploration and discovery success, will benefit as a minority interest holder in the project itself.
If some of those projects would go in production in the future, do you also have a royalty on the income?
Yeah, some of them we do, and ones that had existing royalties on them, we didn't want to further encumber the projects, right? But yeah, some of them we do have maintained royalties on.
Super. So that means you benefit also in the longer term future.
Yeah, if it gets there, absolutely. That's just I think at that point icing on the cake, if you will.
Super. Perfect. Jordan, thank you very much. We are way over the time, but it was very interesting to talk to you. Thanks for the update. You really answered all my questions. Fantastic. And yeah, let's hope that the war ends soon, but let's pray for that also the uranium price moves really further forward, because it really looks like that.
Absolutely. Great chatting with you. We had a lot to catch up on, and looking forward to doing this again.
Yes, me too. Thank you very much, Jordan. All the best.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, there was Jordan Trimble, the CEO of Skyharbour Resources. And you heard it, Skyharbour Resources is really like a, yeah, how can we say, an exploration project generating company, and owning like a little uranium ETF inside, because they have so many projects. They have good partners, even like Uranium, for example. And this is how you can work out a 386,000 hectare land package overall. They have their fingers in, I would say. And yeah, uranium is hot. With this world needs much more uranium. We need much more nuclear power if we want to get that amount of electricity, yeah, CO2 free. And through the last developments with Russia, sanctions, Rosatom, etc., export bans, yeah, the world has changed a lot within the last 2 weeks. But we see how it comes. But uranium will go further, and uranium prices will go up. And I would suggest you have a look at Skyharbour Resources. Thanks for watching us, and bye-bye from Switzerland.